In this demo, we're going to take a look at how you would install the DNS server role inside of Windows Server 2008. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to revisit a feature that we saw in our previous demo back in Chapter 1, that being the Server Manager. Now, the way we can do that is we're going to go through and click Start. You will see that Server Manager is right here at the top. I go ahead and click on that, and this brings up my Server Manager. Now what I want to do is the DNS server system is actually part of, or actually is a role. So if I click on roles over here, you can see 016 roles installed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and click on add roles. This brings up my wizard on here, to which I'm going to click next. And I'm going to go down this list and locate DNS server, and I will check in the checkbox next to that. Now once we do that, you can see over here it's giving me a brief description of what the DNS server does. We've already been through that, so we're not going to go ahead and read this. But if this was your first time, you could actually go through and see if this confirmed that this is what you wanted to add. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now this is where it starts getting to be a little bit context sensitive. Since I chose the DNS server role, what's happening here is this wizard is telling me, okay, here is what the DNS server role does. It's giving me a little bit of idea here, on top of what was additional information to what's provided on the previous slide or screen. Now, until you get familiar with what each role does, you might want to pay attention to what things to note this section has on it, because it goes through and gives you some technical data, some very low-level technical data, but data nonetheless about things you need to be aware of when installing this. And you can see on here, since we're talking, things like Active Directory, when we talk domain controllers in Server 2008, it does give you some additional data there regarding Active Directory. So we're not worried about that right now. You can also see it gives you every role in here will give us additional information on here, giving you links to, okay, well, here's how you plan to deploy one, here's some things that you might want to consider. Don't need to worry about that, we'll be talking about those. We'll go ahead and click next, and it's telling you, okay, you told me you want to install the DNS server, and it really doesn't require a whole lot of information to install the DNS server role. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go ahead and click install. The DNS server process is going to go through, and you can see over here it's going to be gathering information. This progress bar will of course move across. Now why it's doing this, what it's doing is it's gathering files, checking the system out to see if any supporting roles are needed, making sure you meet all the prerequisites. So we'll go ahead and say, oh, do you have an IP address assigned? Is there another DNS server present? And it'll check all those settings and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. Now keep in mind that DNS is required for proper functioning of Active Directory. If you don't have one, Active Directory just plain won't function. Without it, you'll have to have a DNS server someplace for it to access. Now having said that, let's say you didn't install the DNS server role, and when you you went ahead and installed Active Directory or attempted to install it, the Active Directory installation would tell you, hey, you don't have the role actually, the DNS server role or DNS server available or online any place, at least that the wizard can detect, and it will say, do you want me to install one? In which case you would go ahead and do so. What we have right here is I've already gone through. You can see it finished up. You can see what's happening here is it's telling me this is what it found on the system, or what it found as a result of the install. Same warning that we saw before, saying, okay, automatic updating is not enabled. We're not worried about that. We're going down here and saying, okay, DNS server installation succeeded. Good, that's what I wanted to see. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and click close on here, and you can see role summary here in the server manager. It says DNS server is installed. You can go down here specifically for the DNS server and saying, okay, this is what it found. No messages. Well, I would hope not. It just got installed, so there's no messages out there yet. The service is running. No events generated in the last 24 hours. Well, hasn't been installed 24 minutes, so 24 hours isn't that big of a deal. I go over here and I see under roles, I see DNS server. I'm going to click on that. Now this is a console, allows you to view your role. Now each role that we're going to be installing in this course will install its own console or its own little snippet in here that will allow you to view things specific to that role. It's not where you're going to be going to configure fine detailed information with that role, but it is something that you'll be browsing and getting familiar with. So this is specifically for DNS. Now something else that the DNS server install actually does for us is if we go over here to start and go under administrative tools, you can see there's DNS right here. If I click on that, it brings up the DNS console that shows me things going on inside of DNS itself. And what's actually going on here is this is the place where you will do your configuration if you need to do configuration. The server manager is really, for the most part, installing, removing, and viewing what's going on with it. This is where this DNS manager is where the nut and bolt work gets done, the stuff that you're actually really going through and making it work and configuring. So these are the two components you should see on your system and available once you install the actual DNS server role. So in our next demo, we will go ahead and take a look at some other aspects of dealing with DNS and configuring it, and we will be going into the DNS manager.